Hello and welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing today? Today I will be picking the books I want to read in June using my TBR game. If you are new to this space, every month I pick a stack of books to read with a TBR game. Well, almost every month, like last month I read Anna Karenina, and I didn't really see the point of picking a TBR when I knew most of my time would be spent reading that book. So yeah, some months I skip the game just because I already have other reading plans, but usually I'll use the game. It's a simple trail around a board sort of game, inspired by this set of oracle cards, the Literary Witches Oracle. And if you want to know a little bit more about my very loose set of rules, I'll link the original video down below. I explain it more there, but it is pretty easy to follow along, so you don't have to watch it. So there's a couple of things happening in June that I need to consider when picking this TBR. First of all, I will be on holiday for nearly 2 weeks in June, which means I want to make sure I have plenty of options of books to read that I can read on my Kobo, my e-reader. And I've already been putting loads of books on my Kobo from my wish list and my actual physical TBR. All books that are available on Kobo Plus, which is like a monthly subscription where you pay a monthly fee and then you get unlimited access to all the books that are part of that service. Now with my actual physical TBR, I want to keep it quite contained, but with the Kobo I have no limits, just as long as it's available on Kobo Plus and I even have the smallest bit of interested in it, I'll add it to the list. Some people might say that's cheating, but I don't care. It's like having that joy of getting the shiny new things without spending the money. And this way I'll be sure that I will have something to read on my holiday that I am in the mood for at that time. So I need to make sure I have plenty of e-reader options. And secondly, Wonderthon is happening again in June. This is a team-based strategy type of readathon, and if you don't know what that is, I'll suggest having a look at Lizzie's channel, Lizzie's Literary Life. She is the host of Wonderthon, and she has a video up announcing this year's Wonderthon, which explains all the rules. Don't be alarmed by the length of the video. It is kind of a lot and intense, but honestly it is the most fun I've had with a readathon last year, and I am very excited to be a part of it again this year. Last year I ended up reading 30 books in 2 weeks, and that was kind of insane, and I don't really want to do that again this year, because it took me a few months to recover. But I do plan on, reading a bit more than usual, or especially spend a bit more time reading and less time scrolling on my phone. Just have a good reading time this month. I don't have any books I particularly want to read for this readathon. I think the great thing about Wonderthon is that you can kind of fit any book you want into the game. There's different ways to get points, so I can just read whatever I like and then see which way it would get me the most points, and my team the most points. But yeah, it's just good to know that I don't have to worry about picking too many books, because I'll probably read more than average in June. So yeah, that is what's happening in June. And also, if you watched my last video, you know I'm reading the long list of the European Literature Prize, so I'm going to try and fit those in as well. So yeah, let's get into the actual game. I will do 8 rolls as usual. I'll show you all the rolls back to back, and then I'll come back here to show you which books I've picked. Someone forgot to check where we ended up last time, but I do remember we passed the finish line, so we're just gonna start at the beginning today. So yeah, there we go. Roll number 1 is 2. 1, 2, that is one of the regular prompts, and that is a book from a new to me country. Roll number 2 is 1. That is one of the cards, and today we have the spider. Roll number 3 is a 1 again. And the prompt is a book from the Zora canon. Roll number 4 is a 3. 1, 2, 3, and that is a book buying prompt. And that is a classic or modern classic. Roll number 5 is 2. 1, 2, that is a card, and that card is of a nice nin. Roll number 6 is 3. 1, 2, 3, and that's a prompt card, and that says least read, so least amount of people who read it on the story graph. Roll number 7 is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another prompt card, and that is shortest. And then the final roll, number 8, is a 1 again, and that is another card, and that is Emily Dickinson. So the first prompt was to read a book from a new to me country. I joined a read a book from every country challenge on the story graph a couple of years ago. So this prompt means to pick a country from that list. There might be countries that I have actually read from but that aren't crossed off on this challenge. Anyway, there's a couple of books on the European Literature Prize that are new to me countries. There is this one, Broken April by Ismail Kadare, which is from Albania. I've got Niki by Christos Chomenidis, which is from Greece. And then there's another one, the English title is Soviet Milk, and that is from Latvia. And those 3 are all countries I haven't added to this Read the World challenge, so I'll read one of those, or actually I hope I can just read all of them, but I'll count one of them for the game. The next prompt was one of the oracle cards, so with these I'll just let the cards inspire me in any way. So this was the spider card, and the deck comes with a small booklet. Let me just grab it. And these, like picture cards, they have 3 associated words. So for the spider card, the words are focus, planning, and digesting. I wasn't really inspired by those words, so I thought I'd have another look at the card itself, with the spider like at the center of a web, and then I came to interlinked short stories that, you know, come together like a web. I have one of them on my shelf, as far as I'm aware at least, and that is Fiona and Jane by Chen Ho. I don't know much about this book other than that they are interlinked short stories, which is almost enough in itself for me to pick it up because I love that kind of structure in a book. It's about female friendship and the Asian American experience. I think it has some queerness in it as well, so that is an option. Then I also thought of Web of Stories as well, Melinda's channel, that is called Web of Stories. So I might have a look if I have any of the books available to me that she often recommends. She also has a Shakespeare project where she picks a play to read every month. So maybe I'll look into what play is picked for June. Oh, I just realized on her Discord she has set up a read-along for O Pioneers by Willa, Cather. And that is a book on my 40 before 40 list. So I already said I wanted to join in with that. And I think that's on my e-reader. Okay, that was a bit of a journey, but I think I'm going to read O Pioneers for the spider prompt because it's a read-along from Melinda's channel, Web of Stories, and we've got a little spider web on this card. Right, then we have a book from the Zora canon. The Zora canon is a list compiled by Zora, which I think is like an online publication magazine. I'm not sure actually, but it is a list compiled of the 100 greatest novels by African American women. Some of these are very well known, but it also has books that have been kind of forgotten. I did have a look the other day which of these books are available on Kobo Plus, and I think there's about 20 of them. So I'll pick one of those. One of them that I am keen to read is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela E. Davis. So maybe that's what I will read, but there's also plenty of backlist titles that I haven't even heard of that I can look into as well. Then the next prompt was a book buying prompt, and this was to buy a classic or a modern classic. Now I mentioned before that I was going on holiday in June. I'm going to Montenegro with Karen and Heather, but we're all flying together from London. So I added a few days before and after to visit the city, and then when I get back, so back from Montenegro to London, I may or may not have strategically booked a room in the Bloomsbury area, so close to some of my favorite bookshops. So I'm hoping to find maybe some cool editions of classics that I haven't seen here yet, or maybe some cool second-hand editions of out-of-print books. I'm going to try and be a little bit restrained with book shopping, but I guess I'll have at least a little book haul when I get back. So the next was a card prompt again, and this time it was an author card of Anais Nin, and this is what it says about Anais Nin in the booklet. So it says, Anais Nin, the subconscious, the unexplored, submerging and surfacing. Born to Cuban parents, Anais Nin, 1903 to 1977, sensitive, magnetic, fashionable, was raised in Europe and New York. As an adult in Paris, she forged a fluid new literature of female consciousness. Much has been made of her erotica, but her chief artistry is in the non-lurid works. Nin's fiction and her masterpiece, A Lifelong Diary, explored the fractured self, her complicated feelings for her father, psychoanalysis, love and adventures of all sorts. So all I can think about when I read that and I see the card is mermaids, right? It's the surfacing and the submerging and the water and the lady. It's mermaids, right? we all agree. One book I have on my Kobo is Waarheid, bevrijden, or The Truth Will Set Me Free by Alejandra Cortiz. She's a trans woman who fled from Mexico to the Netherlands with the hope of being able to be her true self here, and this is her memoir of that particular journey, and it has a mermaid on the cover. Another book I'm really keen to read is The Deep by River Solomon, which is a book of speculative fiction where mermaids are descendants of pregnant slave women who were thrown overboard slave ships. I think it'll probably be a pretty dark book, but I've heard some really good things about it. And I think Rivers is a queer author as well. I'm pretty sure they identify as non-binary, if I remember correctly, with it being Pride Month in June as well. I'd love to add some queer books to my TBR. Okay, next is least read, and by this I mean a book that not many people have read. So I go on the Storygraph or Goodreads and look which book has the least amount of ratings. And what I will do with this is look at any book that has less than 10 ratings on the Storygraph and then cross-reference it with Goodreads, just because the Storygraph is newer and it has less users. Sometimes a backlist book won't have as many ratings on the Storygraph, but then when you look back on Goodreads it will have hundreds of ratings. Anyway, I picked Hidden Depths by Ifan Morgan-Jones. This has 5 ratings on the Storygraph and 18 on Goodreads, so definitely not a book that many people have read. This is a book that Heather, of Too Many Heathers, read last year, I think for the Welsh Readathon, but maybe for Shorty September, and she said it was like the weirdest little sci-fi adventure story she's ever read. And you all know how convincing Heather can be when she gets excited about something. So I put it on my TBR. It's a bit left field for me, but I think it'll be fun. Prompt number 7 was the shortest book, and like with the least read prompt, I will pick from the shortest couple of books on my TBR, not like the actual shortest, because I still like to have some options. But yeah, I want to read an actual short book for this, so at least under 150 pages, or maybe even under like 120 pages or so. Again, the European Prize for Literature has some shorties on it. We have a klein detail, or minor detail, which has 127 pages. Then we have The Age of Destroying, and that is 116 pages. And then this one is actually the tiniest, which is Schitterend, or A Shining is the English title, by Jon Fosse, and this is 77 pages. And also the book itself is a lot tinier than the other books, and like on the page it just has less width on the page. Like this is like a regular book, and then here's A Shining. So yeah, this is my shortest book, so I'll read this one. And then the final prompt was another one of the author cards, and this was Emily Dickinson, and this is what the booklet says. Emily Dickinson, the soul, spiritual life, the inner world and the unknown. Emily Dickinson, 1830 to 1886, spent her whole life in Amherst, Massachusetts, refusing conventional religion and her prominent family's exhausting social schedule, she instead cultivated a unique spiritual and social life. She wrote long letters to friends, worked in her garden, and created strikingly original poetry about God, death, pain, and love. When Dickinson died, even those closest to her were shocked to find her life's work of 1,800 poems neatly folded in a drawer. To be honest, I think I would like to just read something by Emily Dickinson. I've never read any of her poetry, and I really think it would be nice to dip my toes into some of her works. So I'll try and find a selection of her poetry. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. And then finally, I'm going to pick a card for you. If you don't know, at the end of these videos, I always pick a card for you as well, just to inspire you with your reading. I used to have it so that when people read a book for the card, it would give me bonus points in the game, but I'm really too unorganized to keep up with that. But I do like picking this card, and I love hearing back from you if you read anything for it. I've heard some really interesting associations, yeah, and I really love that. Anyway, I've got this stack here, and here is the card. This is Anna Akhmatova, and this is what the card looks like. And it says about her endurance, staying with pain, avoiding pain, and patience. Anna Akhmatova, 1889 to 1966, was celebrated during and beyond her lifetime for her lyric melancholy poetry. As Russia fell under Stalin, Akhmatova and her circle of artists and intellectuals were persecuted for their work. Her son was imprisoned and sent to labor camps, and her husband was executed. Akhmatova's most famous poem, Requiem, is her boldest attempt at capturing the Stalinist horror. So maybe for this you can read something Russian, or read something by an author that has been arrested, or read some poetry. You can be as creative as you like with it, but please do let me know if you read anything for the card, because I love hearing about it. Okay, I think that's it for today. Oh, the last thing I wanted to do is talk about the Tales of Two Trails activity this month. So Tale of Two Trails is a TBR game that Kim of Expedition 3 Pages plays on her channel, and you can join in with one of her teams. I'm with Team Elephants, and I'm not, and I must admit, I'm not the best member. Usually I just try and fit whatever I'm already planning to read into her game, and it doesn't always work out. But she also always has an activity for us to do, and I think for June she has such a fun one. The activity is to do predictions for one of the books she'll read this month. So before you start a book, you make a 3x3 grid, and you write down 9 things that you think will happen in this book. So you get like a little bingo card, and then as you read the book you can cross out anything that you read that you predicted would happen, which I think is great fun. So I wanted to do that for my next read, which is going to be this one, In Breuk in April, or Broken April by Ismail Kadare. This has another hold at the library, so it needs to get back pretty soon. This is set in the Albanian mountains, and there's a blood feud, and it's about the clash between modern culture and ancient mountain people traditions. Okay, I'm gonna grab a piece of paper and then make my grid and see what I think will happen in this book. Okay, let's write it down. What do I think will happen in this book? I think writing down that someone will die will be a little bit too easy, because that's on the blurb. But let's say someone will have a festering wound. Lovely. Yep, writing it down. Festering wound. I also think there will be someone riding a horse. There will be a mention of a fire. I also think it will rain. I think there will be a home-cooked meal. Or like people talking about what they're eating. I think there will be a father and son heart-to-heart conversation. Okay, so we are in the mountains, or set in the mountains, so I think at some point someone will have a little tumble. Maybe someone will fall off the mountain, or they'll like slide down a mountain. Let's see. I think with that clash between old and new, there might be mention of a mythical creature. Not like they are in the actual book, but I think people have stories about them, like dragons or something. That sounds like a good mountain creature. So let's say mythical creatures. And then lastly, I read on the blurb as well that there's a young couple that is part of the story. So let's say there will be a pregnancy, or like a wondering if someone is pregnant. Okay, there we have it. I can't read my own handwriting, but that's my little grid, and I will have a look and see which of these books, or which of these things will actually happen in this book, and see if I can get like a bingo. I think for the Tale of Two Trails game, it doesn't matter if you actually get a bingo. I think you get the points for doing the activity itself. Anyway, that's it for today. I think I got a pretty good stack as a starting point for my June reading. I'll see how I will get on, whether I will read these books or whether I will be drawn to other things. I always see these TBRs as more of a guideline or a pile of possibility rather than something set in stone. But I am pretty excited about all of these books. So that is it for today. If you have any thoughts on any of the books I mentioned today, please let me know or just say hello. Thank you so much for watching. It's been lovely having you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.